Don't worry, I'm not in my car anymore.
All right, this is a short Twitter video message for MP Scott Davidson, who's the Conservative MP for the York region out of Ontario. I just got off the phone with Kayla Pollock. Kayla Pollock had been on my show for an interview a while back. She's the Ontario woman who was rendered a quadriplegic after getting a Moderna booster, after getting 2 Pfizer shots for the COVID stuff. Set aside the science as to when it became scientific to just mix and match willy-nilly these shots with boosters, go to Moderna, go to Pfizer, whatever's available, whatever. From what I understand, because I've seen some of her posts on Twitter, she reached out to you and you agreed to meet with her to hear her story, see what could be done for her. Because as far as I understand, she's still waiting on her vaccine injury support program application, which seems to be getting lost in the cracks. She hasn't gotten any response from the vaccine injury support program, as if that could possibly right the wrong that has been done to her or compensate her for the damages she has suffered as a result of a policy, which was federal policy. Set all that aside. Apparently, you were supposed to meet with her this week because it's constituency week and you're out of parliament and could meet with your constituents, and you agreed to meet with her. All that Kayla had asked, from what I understand, was 24-hour notice so she could get her personal caregivers to prep her for the meeting. It's now Wednesday, 10:15, and I got off the phone with Kayla, and no news, which means that Friday would be the only day left in this week for you to meet with her as per the promise, as per the agreement, because you represent these people of your constituents. So is it going to happen? And what's going to happen? And are we just going to leave Canadian citizens to fend for themselves after being injured by government policy? Worth noting, by the way, if you're watching this, Scott, is that she was offered maids, medical assistance in dying, 3 times from this Canadian government, unsolicited, I should add. It's horror beyond horror. It's tragedy beyond tragedy, and it's insult to injury. She was offered maids. So the government can't provide for her, but they can provide death to her. So meet with her, please. Get her story out there. Get the Canadian media talking about it. Get members of parliament talking about it. You're not sweeping the vaccine injuries under the rug and thinking they're going to go away. It's not going to happen. So you agreed to meet with her, from what I understand. Meet with her, and I'm going to put this video out there to make sure that there's a little bit of social media pressure for you to follow through on your agreement, your promise, your undertaking to meet with her. Kayla Pollock is her name. She's got to give, send, go because she's raising funds to survive, because the government that I would say directly, if not indirectly, injured her is unable to provide for her. They can provide death, they can't provide life. So Scott, please do what it is you're supposed to do and meet with your constituents. Thanks.
All right, people. This may be repetitive for those of you who are part of the vivabarneslaw.locals.com community. It's exquisitely short notice for this stream because I did a podcast with the unusual suspects. I went to see my doctor, who said that my sciatic pain probably is not from a herniated disc, but as he says, pain in my ass. It's probably from a muscle that's too tight and pinching on the sciatic. So I've been told to take a leave, stretches, warm compresses, and other stuff. So I wanted to get this out earlier, but I wanted to get live earlier. But I did the podcast with the unusual suspects. It's going to air at 6 o'clock. You should all watch it because, my goodness, is it a banger of an episode. And we're going to go over some of the stuff there. But I did a 45-minute, give or take 40 minutes in the car, vivabarneslaw.locals.com exclusive podcast, live stream, whatever the heck we want to call it. And some of this stuff might be repetitive, this story in particular. Kayla Pollock, you may know her. I mean, you should know her. Let me pull up her give, send, go. And it's like, she's a Canadian woman who was rendered a quadriplegic after getting a Moderna booster, after having had 2 Pfizer shots. And can you imagine, like, you look back at the science, the speed of science, and what we were told from the experts, and they were just like willy-nilly. Oh, what's that? You had 2 Pfizer shots? Well, go and get a Moderna. What difference does it make? Oh, the Johnson & Johnson's an adenovirus, and the AstraZeneca's an adenovirus. Maybe you can mix those up. Who the hell knows? Moving at the speed of science. She was rendered a quadriplegic after her booster shot and is a prisoner in her own body now. And I had her on the channel and we become friends. And the problem is there are too many stories of horror and tragedy. And the problem is there are so many of them. On the one hand, unless you're personally involved or personally not engrossed but attached, there are too many to keep track of, and there's too many to be able to address all of them adequately. And her story is she was rendered a quadriplegic. She goes to the hospital, the ER, is told it's in her head by one of the doctors there. The other doctor acknowledges what happens, and transverse myelitis is not all in your head. And she was offered maids in Canada on 3 separate occasions, unsolicited, in the months after she became a quadriplegic. The government says, can't make you any better, but we can off you if you so choose. It's not going to get any better. You're going to end up in long-term care, and you don't want to do that. So maybe after we've implemented policy that gets you rendered a quadriplegic, we can carry out a policy that will render you not alive. And she has been reaching out to her members of parliament. Scott, whatever his name is, Scott Davidson, I forget his name now. A Conservative MP that represents the York region of Ontario, who said he'd meet with her. First of all, it takes a social media pressure campaign to get these repulsive politicians to even address the victims of their policy. It takes a social media campaign to get an answer, to get this person to pay attention. And maybe it's because they're overwhelmed and swamped with so many other people, so many other issues. Maybe they're swamped with their, the people who get them elected, the lobbyists, pharma lobbyists. Maybe they're swamped with shipping billions of dollars off to Ukraine. You can't just do that overnight. And so she got the attention of Scott, whatever his name is, for goodness sake. What's his name? I don't want to screw this up. Scott Davidson. His name is Scott Davidson, MP. The guy says he's going to meet with her. All she needs is a 24-hour notice. And then radio silence. And I spoke with Kayla today, and I could feel her despair in her social media posts. This is a woman now who is a prisoner in her own body, left to her own devices, has to crowdfund for her own existence because the government doesn't have the money anymore because it's shipped it off to Ukraine, and it instead offers death to her. And I am now friends with Kayla, and it's not a personal mission, but it's a personal mission. And so, Scott Davidson, MP, what the hell's the deal? And this is the world in which we have to live, with the victims of government policy in a socialized healthcare system. Government can't provide. And so the government says, have you thought about offing yourself? Someone in the chat says, I thought it was illegal. Let me just see here. What did it say? I thought it was illegal to offer people death. If it's not criminal, it should be. It's absolutely repulsively unethical. Now she has to raise money so she can get a wheelchair accessible vehicle, and it's terrible. So that's one update. The one update is the woman who's a victim of government policy is now being ignored by the government. Her vaccine injury support program application seems to be in hiatus, seems to be AWOL. They can't seem to find it. Oh, fill out the forms. I've already filled out the forms. What's the status of my file? You got a case manager. Radio silence. I've asked to see some of the communications so that I can see if this is acceptable, if this all needs to be put on massive blast. Corrupt, incompetent governments, that they get to wash their hands of the consequences of their wrongdoing and just leave in the wake of their destruction the citizens who are victims of their awful policy and utter neglect. Kayla Pollock, I'll share everybody the Give, Send, Go. And more importantly, there's only so much that people can even donate to and help. But raise awareness, share the story. And I'm telling Kayla, get online, start creating content, start telling your story, start exploring other people's stories, and bring this to light and make sure nobody forgets, because collective memory is very short. Unless people are personally impacted, they tend to forget. And people, even if they are personally impacted, tend to want to forget and move on. Because so that's not any good news that I have to update on Kayla Pollock's situation. We'll see if Scott Davidson, MP, actually follows through on his promise to meet up with her. It's illegal to offer maid unsolicited, but there's no penalty in the statute for it. Says Mark Sidloy. Yeah, well, that's you're not supposed to. You can't offer someone suicide unless they ask for it. And I mean, even then, typically when they ask for it, you have a help hotline, not a help how-to line. But it's the government, and the government is as corrupt as the most corrupt people who seek power for the sake of holding on to power. And speaking of corrupt governments and holding on to power and the consequences of not being able to trust corrupt governments, whether or not we're going to have a disease X or a black swan event of this year, one thing we all learned from the previous, I'll call it the so-called pandemic. I do believe something happened, and I do believe there was a virus. Do I believe it was half as bad as they made it out to be? No. I think we'll find that out in due course, but I don't believe it was nothing. I believe there was a genetically modified gain-of-function research virus that escaped from the Wuhan Institute of Virology. And I believe the government weaponized it as thoroughly as they could to take Trump out and to gain control over an entire population and to basically come one step closer to implementing a one world government. One of the things you might have noticed when that happened, well, holy hell, did we all find out real quick that some of our much needed medications are made overseas in countries that are potentially adversarial or outright adversarial, maybe even the countries that were responsible for what we were going through. We don't have a healthcare system in this country. We have a sick care system. Pharmaceutical companies make billions. That's billions with a B every single year off sick Americans, which means big pharma needs you to be sick to be reliant on them. I remember when this was going on with the so-called pandemic, and instead of telling you vitamin D, exercise, be healthy, lose weight, they said, no, lock yourself in your home, isolate yourself, perpetually disinfect yourself. Don't talk about vitamin D. Don't talk about HCQ and ivermectin. Don't talk about any of those things. Be isolated, be stressed, be constantly disinfected, and don't see anybody. Don't get outside and don't exercise. Here's a freaking burger for you to chow on when you go get the jibby jab. All right. How can you push back and how can we do it? We become self-reliant and take control of our health. The wellness company's medical emergency kits, designed by elite doctors, including McCullough, Pinsky. You know Dr. Drew Pinsky. I go on his show all the time. I love him. These prescription kits have emerged as a keystone of many Americans' family emergency kits preparedness plans, saving thousands of dollars in unplanned hospital visits and making sure you can get the medications that sometimes are made in Asia, China, India, and you might not be able to get them when the world shuts down. Dr. Peter McCullough has been preaching the importance of early intervention and treatment since 2020, and that message won't change. Early treatment is paramount to timely recovery of any illness. So be ready. The next thing is coming, and the wellness company's medical emergency kit is what you need to have, containing 8 life-saving medications, including ivermectin, amoxicillin, antibiotic, a Z-Pak, plus a guidebook and the aid to safe use of these life-saving medications. The kit is prescription only and only available in the United States of America. So I don't know how you get them in Canada, and I don't want to make any recommendations for fear of breaking laws because we have more and more laws and we even know what to do with. You can't find anything like it in a store or pharmacy. Every American should have at least one of these kits in their home. Go to the website. It is TWC it's www. TWC.health/Viva. Get your kit today. The promo code Viva will get you $30 off. And let me make sure before I say it, free shipping. That's right. Link is in the description. All right, people. It's wild. I remember when the world shut down, and then we're like, well, we might need some nebulizers for asthma. Oh yeah, well, if we're open, we're going to stay open because we're essential, and no hoarding medication, people. And yeah, it's made overseas, and yeah, there's an interruption to global supply chain. So good luck and get what you get, and you don't get what you get if you don't get it. Mother Cabri. All right. Now I got another. While we're on the bad news updates, by the way, I'm not going to go much past 6 o'clock because Robert Gouveia is going to be live, I believe, at 6 o'clock, and The Unusual Suspects is premiering the stream at 6 o'clock, and I want to give everyone the link to that. Go watch it. Has Viva mentioned the BC Supreme Court nurses mandate ruling from earlier today? I haven't. There's also too much to talk about. I mean, all right, the BC court ruled that the COVID jibby jab mandate for healthcare workers was constitutionally justifiable. Rubbish. Just garbage in, garbage out. We're going to be dealing a lot with Canadian stuff today. I'll pull up an article. We'll cover that today. An injunction out of Quebec, McGill, ordering the dismantling of the pro-Palestinian encampments on the McGill campus. An injunction ordering that to be dismantled was not granted. We'll get into that. But we're going to start with another big story, and I'm going to put out a short vlog on this because I want it to be shareable. Dexter Taylor. Okay, let me pull up an article. You know who Dexter Taylor is. Dexter Taylor, convicted. He's the man who was making homemade firearms, but they're not really, they called them ghost guns. They accused him of having an arsenal of ghost guns in his New York apartment. Dexter Taylor was on the channel. We did an interview while he was standing trial for criminal possession of a firearm under New York state law. The facts, for those of you who don't know, and I've spoken with Dexter now multiple times from Rikers Island, and I'll get there in a second. The facts, for those of you who don't know, Dexter is a law-abiding, upstanding citizen, an engineer, I believe, by trade. He had a radio show. He's got a magnificent, deep, raspy radio voice. Not a radio face, because he's actually a very good-looking guy as well. He was assembling firearms from kits that he would procure lawfully from the open market on the internet in his real name, delivered it to his apartment in New York. He would buy the kits, all serialized from what I understand. So it's not like these are unserialized or serial defaced firearms. He built his own firearms from kits that he lawfully procured from the internet, that he ordered in his name to his apartment. And he built something like 12 or 13 firearms. Some of them looked like big, scary assault rifles, and I don't exactly know what they were. He had them in his apartment. He gets raided because it's criminal possession of a firearm to possess a firearm that is not registered in the state of New York. He goes to trial. He's facing 18 years in prison, and he goes to trial. I don't know what he was thinking would be the defense, if he was hoping for jury nullification. He stood trial, criminal trial, on all the charges and was convicted. And I interviewed him on, I would say, the Tuesday, the week before he was convicted. He stood trial. He was convicted of unlawful criminal possession of a firearm. He didn't have a criminal record. He wasn't selling these firearms. He wasn't caught distributing them, trafficking them in public with them. They stayed in his apartment. And the crime was that they were not registered in the state of New York. Convicted, hauled off to Rikers. Okay. Calls me for the first time from Rikers, and it's like, it's a wild thing. You get this call, and, I don't know the number. Get a call and pick it up, and it's like a 30-second pre-recorded message saying, this is going to be a recorded line. Three-way calls are prohibited. I think the three-way calls are prohibited might have been out of the Canadian jail that I was talking to people from, but it says this is not a secure line. This is monitored for criminal activity. If you are a lawyer, please phone in or go online and register your number as a secure line so that you can have not eavesdropped or not spied upon conversations, which I don't believe, from a hole in the wall. And I talked to Dexter right after conviction, and he's optimistic. He's upbeat. Says he's doing push-ups, prayers, and playing chess. 3 things: exercising the body, the heart, and the mind. And so he gets hauled off before sentencing, whisked off in jail, Rikers Island. He says he's got a good group of guys that he's with. It's sort of middle-aged men. It's not young, violent criminals. And he's very optimistic and very upbeat. He was not yet sentenced the first time we spoke, and he's going to appeal the decision, obviously. Okay. I get a call from him the day before yesterday because, no, not the day before. It was yesterday. And he says, I've been sentenced to 10 years. I don't know if you heard. I said, I heard. It's outrageous. And he's authorized me to make public statements on his behalf. But I'll read you this. I'll read you this. He was sentenced to a decade in prison for having unlicensed weapons. Dexter Taylor is now a, quote, violent felon, end quote, even though his hobby was victimless. This is from Reason. That's good. Okay, finally. His stories are being picked up by bigger outlets. A New York man sentenced to a decade in prison after a jury convicted him on a slew of violent felonies. Most intriguing, though, is that there were no victims because there was no violence. 53, police raided his house, found several firearms without state-required licenses. He's a software engineer, took an interest in it, yada, yada, yada. By assembling these guns from kits, unfinished parts, or 3D printed components, those who possess ghost guns, they're all licensed, they're all serialized, I should say, evade critically important background checks and registration requirements. And because they have no serial number, that is, from what I understand, false, they are untraceable, which, from what I understand, is false. He said in a press release at the time, oh, this is from the district attorney. That's not from Dexter Taylor. The surge in ghost guns in our neighborhoods is a major contributor to the violence plaguing our communities. Bullshit. I guarantee you that's statistical bullshit. And so that's it. Okay, well, especially ironic is that Gonzalez promised to lead, quote, the most progressive DA's office in the country. Ensuring that a man serves substantial prison time for crimes that hurt no one does not strike me as particularly progressive. That's the story. I spoke with Dexter yesterday. I'll get my notes in a second, but I asked him one specific question because you recall there was a point where we were talking about an article that was written, I want to say, in the Western Standard. And it quoted the judge. The judge's name, her name is Darke. Darky or Darke. It quoted her as having said, "Don't bring the Second Amendment into this courtroom. Courtroom. This is the state of New York." Dexter confirmed that she actually said this. The judge, it's gonna blow your mind. So they had sentencing. The prosecution was asking for 10 years, not the maximum of 18 years. The state asked for 10 years, and Judge Darke gave the maximum, or gave what the state was asking for. Not the maximum, but the maximum of what the state was asking for. 10 years. Dexter is 50 some odd years old, no criminal record, no nothing, a value added, tax paying, contributing citizen. 10 years she gave him. And what he told me was that during the sentencing, Judge Darke took the time to actually say in open court that she had been receiving very mean comments online. She'd been reading some commentary, some messages, and she'd been getting very mean messages online. And I'm asking Taylor, like, why the hell would the judge in sentencing be talking about online chat or whatever the hell she's talking about that was directed at her? Why the hell? I don't know. I guess in all of this, the judge is the victim, right? The judge in sentencing was complaining about some mean comments that she had read online. Why she'd even be reading them online is beyond me. Why she would say them while sentencing Dexter to 10 years is also beyond me. The public statement that Dexter has authorized me to say is that he said, I had to look it up afterwards, de minimis non curat lex. The law should not be concerned with trivialities. And I presume he meant, I don't know if he meant it actually in terms of the trivialities of mean comments online that the judge, who's quite clearly defying the Second Amendment, was focusing on, or the trivialities of not having a registered firearm despite it being lawfully procured from kits is the triviality under the law that the law is now concerned with. I think he meant it more in the sense that this judge, in sentencing this man to 10 years, somehow exacting punishment on him for the ills and the meany comments online. Dexter was a little I say he's optimistic, and I don't know if it's delusional or optimistic. He's like, yeah, she gave me such a ridiculous sentence that this will help with the appeal. 10 years for someone with no criminal record for a non-violent crime, and she gave a decade. He thinks, the idea is it'll facilitate an appeal of this case because Judge Darke, at the risk of her credentials, Judge Darke, here we go. Honorable Abina Darke reflects on how rich cultural experiences and stimulating work contribute to a life well lived. She's an acting justice of New York Supreme Court sitting in Kings County. She was elevated to the position as of January 1, 2022, after having presided over Manhattan Domestic Violence Court and serving as a misdemeanor trial judge in Brooklyn. She was appointed to the New York City Criminal Court in 2015. Cultural heritage and values. She's a child of an immigrant father and a first-generation American mother. Her father, George Komla Darke, was born and raised in Ghana, West Africa. He came to New York in the 60s to attend Columbia University, yada, yada, yada. It's an interesting thing. Hold on, dog needs to leave. Go. It's an interesting thing. Barnes makes some jokes, which Robert Barnes, sorry, for those who don't know, vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Barnes makes some jokes which could be argued to be politically incorrect, or some observations, commentary, which some, if they want to focus on the irrelevant aspect of the commentary, could perceive as politically incorrect. The idea that you have, children, first generation, or in some judges' cases, non-immigrant Americans, immigrants to America, coming in and attaining the positions of power of judges. And you ask yourself, why would it be a requirement that the president and vice president of the United States would have to be natural-born citizens? The argument is that you want to make sure that the executives or people in positions of power are born, raised, have something of a tie, of a connection to the country that they were elected to, or, enable to represent. And if you don't have that connection, well, what type of policy is someone with no connection to the country that they represent going to implement? It's one of the concerns about Kamala Harris, or the critiques. Sure, she's a natural-born citizen, even though I think some people argue that because her parents were immigrants. She was born in America, raised in Canada, up the street from where I used to live in Montreal. And how American in spirit, culture, and identity could she possibly be? That's the concern. And so if you have, let's just say, people coming from communist countries, let's just avoid any racial accusations. Let's say you have a schnook from Canada who comes down, first generation American, born of Canadian parents, who brought this kid up with the most vitriolic anti-Second Amendment culture you can imagine. You don't need an assault rifle to hunt. You don't need 10 rounds in a chamber, 10 rounds in a magazine in order to hunt. And you get that person who comes down, white, black, Jew, Christian, Muslim, whatever. Canadian culture comes down and then gets on a bench where that person is in a position to say, F your Second Amendment, because culturally I never grew up with it and culturally I disagree with it. Although I'm American, that aspect of my identity might have been influenced by my Canadian heritage, my polite Canadian heritage. Ooh, we only need three shotgun cartridges to go duck hunting. By the way, that's the rule in Canada. I suspect it's the same here. In Canada, you can't have more than 5 rounds in a magazine of a rifle. There's a cultural aspect to this. And you get dark. Dark is first generation American. I don't know what gun laws or gun culture is like in what was it, West Ghana? West Africa, Ghana. I don't know what it was. But what you have here is a judge on the bench who, it has been confirmed to me now, said, don't bring in your Second Amendment arguments into this court. There's no Second Amendment here. This is New York. Well, I'm sorry. Some people might argue that this judge who takes an oath to uphold the law of the country needs to uphold the supreme law of the land, that being the Constitution, which kind of trumps whatever stupid New York State laws they think they've implemented to circumvent the Bruin Supreme Court decision. And so Dexter has now been sentenced to 10 years, and the silver lining that he's trying to either rightly paint or potentially convince himself of is that it's so insanely idiotic to be sentenced to 10 years that it will facilitate an appeal. That you're going to argue the Second Amendment argument as a matter of law in appeal. The question is going to be, does he get out during appeal? And I'm not so optimistic about anything anymore. But that is what's going on with Dexter Taylor, and I said I would bring it to the world's attention in as much as I can. And that's it. Now, the 3 shots is for duck hunting. So apparently when you go duck hunting, you cannot even have the 5 rounds that you would otherwise be able to fit into a rifle. And I don't know what the rationale is behind that. I only took a 2-day gun course and never got out to go duck hunting, but maybe that day's in the future one day soon. When I did the live stream with Norm Pattis, represented Alex Jones, represented some of the Jan 6ers, and he's like, look, if the zeitgeist, if the culture is we're going to appoint judges that reflect these, I won't call them non-American values, but let's just say progressive values which conflict with constitutional principles. Norm Pattis's argument is, well, if that's the way the culture is moving, then that's the way one has to move with the culture, which is a pretty decent argument. The rebuttal to that would be, that's why you have a constitution. That's why it's not this living tree that can just bend to whatever the progressive whims of the time are. It had incontrovertible, undeniable, and what's the word? Uncompromisable principles shall not be infringed. Period. Oh, well, if the culture comes around that, the First Amendment rights, they can be infringed. Well, no, that's not how it works. And anybody wanting to bring that into the judicial system is not welcome to bring that into the judicial system. Okay, so that's the update with Dexter Taylor. And we're going to get to some other fun stuff here. Let me just see what's going on in the chat. We have that same rule here, Viva. Oh, the duck hunting. Yeah, guess what? Why? Because it'll be too easy just to blast ducks. And if you don't get them on your first 3 shots, then you don't deserve to get those ducks. Duck hunts with a rifle. Okay, no, salty mugger fugger. A rifle. I mean, I am saying shotgun, but it is in Canada it's a rifle. I mean, it's a shotgun. Not because you can put in a Remington, you can put in a slug, or you can put in a, what do they call them? The spread. But a long arm, I should say, instead of a rifle. Yes, not a sniper rifle. That's not how you go duck hunting. Although I remember knowing the guy who apparently patented the spread of pellets through shotgun cartridges. They are trying to destroy the Constitution, says Up Patel. There's no question about it. They don't believe. They love the Constitution when they want to argue that it protects a woman's right to have an abortion, even though that is absolutely nowhere in the Constitution, was a bastardized judicial interpretation to read it into the privacy clause. And they don't like the Constitution when it comes to the right to bear arms and a well-regulated militia shall not be infringed. And the irony is I come from the Canadian not gun-loving culture. I come from the Canadian polite culture. You don't need... I remember growing up and saying these arguments. And now I've seen what happens. When you believe these rubbish arguments, they will not stop. And when you understand that the Second Amendment wasn't about hunting. We don't have a Second Amendment in Canada because our founding fathers lacked the foresight that the genius founding fathers of America had. We don't have a Second Amendment, but you understand it wasn't about duck hunting. It was about self-defense, the God-given right to defend your body, your person, and your property, and the right to a well-regulated militia to fight off a tyrannical government if and when that government ever got tyrannical. You know, I won't even say what I was about to say because I don't want people taking anything out of context. But that's what it was about. It wasn't about duck hunting, and that's why it shall not be infringed. Quiet, people. All right, so that's what up with Dexter. Let me just make sure I didn't forget anything. So he's going to give me updates as they come along. I'm going to see if I can reach out to his attorney and maybe get an interview or have him come on and explain it, or not explain it, but discuss what's going on. And that's it. The ask, he didn't ask. There was no formal ask from Dexter. He was surprised, concerned, a little disappointed that this case was not being taken up by, and I'll put it in quotes, conservative, right-wing, Second Amendment media, or commentators and whatever. And I've had this discussion with a great many people. Some people are saying, well, that's the law of New York State. If you don't like it, leave. And Dexter's argument to that was, well, you can leave and abandon one state. They're going to come find you in another state. All that you've done is given that state. There's never been a socialist, communist, authoritarian government that's been happy with their own existing borders. And so he says, look, that argument, I appreciate it. People say it. F around, find out. Live in commie California. Don't complain about $7 a gallon gas. But this is the law of the land issue. And if the law of the land is not respected in any given state, then you no longer have a law of the land. And if one can have an ask, put this story on blast, get it to the people who defend Second Amendment rights, get it to conservatives, Republicans, so they can make hay of this, because above and beyond it being an outrageously unjust situation and totally anti-progressive by its nature, it's also just circumventing the Supreme Court decision in Bruin, because the states now getting all insurrection. He's saying we don't have to respect those Supreme Court rulings. We can just do whatever the hell we want, and to hell with the Supreme Court. So put it on blast. That's what I can do. I'm going to do a short video so that it's more shareable. That's Dexter Taylor update. Let me see what we got going on over here. We got New York Shitty, says Abraham. Thank you very much. And I'm also, and now I'm personally invested in Dexter. I got to know Kayla. I got to know Dexter. I got to know at least a few of the Coots men who were locked up for years in that prison in Alberta. And I, spoke with them from prison. I'm personally invested. These are people who I consider friends. Digital friends until we meet in person, but friends. So that's Dexter. All right. Moving on over to, hold on, let me just see if the link for The Unusual Suspects is up. Let's see here. It's such a good episode today because I talked about Michael Cohen. I talked about it's a good, you're going to want to watch it. Let me just see if I can find it, if they've set up the live. Well, it's not up yet, but I'll give everybody the link to the channel, and you can go check it out. Bada bing, bada boom. There it is. I'll give it in locals. Let me see what's going on in vivabarneslaw.locals.com. All right, there's a bunch of tips here. Let's get to these tips before we get to the next Canadian topic. View tipped. Doug Leaf Fan. That's Doug_Leaf_fan says Canada is a, quote, banana republic. USA needs to liberate us. If they have their way here, they're going to turn. We're going to get to Joe Biden. In fact, that's the segue. We're going to talk Joe Biden right now. Rumple Gold sent a $5 tip. Says, Viva, Why is Canada giving money to Ukraine now? What's the deal with that? They've been giving money. I don't know if there's anything today or yesterday or last week. They've been giving hundreds of millions. Are they into the billions yet in Canada? They're not into the hundreds of billions like in the States. Why? It's a big, fat, freaking money laundering scheme, period. Why are they giving money to Ukraine? Because it's a big proxy war. And they don't care. They're sending other people's kids off to the slaughter, shipping other people's tax dollars off to the laundry machine, to the laundromat. And it's the new thing. They've convinced the public that if you don't support this, you're a Putin apologist. If you don't support COVID, you want Granny to die. If you don't, well, I don't know. In the Israeli-Palestinian one, there's like, that's just, that was just pick a side and fight with each other. Encryptus says, let's do a shooting event for a Viva Barnes Law get-together. I don't know about that, Encryptus. I think something happening by accident even would make for very, very bad publicity. Not for Viva Barnes Law, for Second Amendment issues at large. I might attend one of these events. There's a bunch of them people invite me or suggest I should go to. Spam Ranger says, if you are hunting wild pigs to protect your farm crops, you need a large capacity magazine, as in an assault rifle. Dude, I've seen some of the hunting of those wild, those feral hogs. I've seen some of the size of those hogs, like 1,000 pounds. Wild. And then Roostang says, if you watch the endless stream of complete dummies that the Democrat Party offers up for legal questions from the likes of Senator Hawley, Kennedy, Cruz, among others, you'd think this is the Democratic plan. DEI dunces only need to apply for judicial positions. And Abraham has a tip here. It says, soon we will have Viva singing the Blame Canada song from the South Park movie. Yeah, better that one than Uncle Effer, because that song, I remember laughing so hard during the Uncle Effer song. Every time I saw that movie, I couldn't breathe. But speaking of DEI and idiocy and stupidity in the Biden administration, this is pathological. This is pathological. I don't want to hear the audio yet. This is what an abuser does. They rub their abuse in the face of the victims of their abuse. Listen to this. First of all, before we even listen to this, just look at this man's face. I'm not making fun of the fact that he's ugly, that he's got a birthmark or whatever. This is the face of dementia. And anybody who doesn't recognize it has never experienced the face of dementia. Look at the eyes. The eyes are dead. These eyes are dead eyes. Look at the anger. Look at the scowl. Look at the mechanical movement of the mouth. Wait until you hear the word. Look at it right there. That's my personal favorite. Right about, where was it? Hold on. It was right about, where was it? Look at this. This is a man who doesn't know where he is. But look at this. Oh, there. That's the only image that looks reasonably. All right, let's go to the beginning here and listen to this, people. Pathological. I don't know if this is narcissism, sociopathy. This is what an abuser does to remind the victim of their abuse. What'd you learn the first time? It's going to work. Better work.
Lost 2 debates. Donald Trump lost 2 debates to me in 2020. Since then, he hadn't shown up for debate. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. Well, make my day, pal. I'll even do it twice. So let's pick the dates, Donald. I hear you're free on Wednesdays. Donald Trump.
I hear you're free on Wednesdays. That is like, an abusive husband going to his wife that he's just abused, asking to go, hey, honey, sorry about what happened last night. Let's go for a jog. And saying, yeah, good luck keeping up with me. Does your leg still hurt from last night? Oh, good luck keeping up with it. Can you see out of your swollen eye? I hear you're free on Wednesdays. For those of you who don't get the joke, the 6-week trial that Trump is bogged down in with Justice Marchand, whose daughter is raking in millions with this prosecution, representing Adam Schiff through her authentic PR firm. Alvin Bragg, Soros funded. That Judge Marchand, well, that trial's scheduled for 6 weeks, but they give off Wednesdays. Every Wednesday is a court-free day. And so Joe Biden, who we now know, not him personally, dude doesn't know what freaking day of the week it is. I mean, look, let him pick the Wednesday, see if he can find it. But his administration, which has had its filthy tentacles in this prosecution from day one, is now rubbing in the face of Trump. Oh, yeah, you're stuck in trial for 6 weeks because of what we've done, but I hear you're free on Wednesday. He says it out loud to the public so that the public should see the abuser rubbing his victim's face in his own violence. 13-second video with about 15 clips, 15 edits in it. Let's see how long, how many edits. Let's play a game here. Let's play the game called Demented Joe Can't Make 13 Seconds Without an Edit, a hard edit. Hard, boys. Let's see here. Is this it? No, that's not the right one. Hold on. Where's the video here? Shay Brosh, where's the video? Oh, come on. I want to do this here. Lectin guy. I hear you for on Wednesdays. Okay, let's count the edits, people. See if we can even do it.
Donald Trump lost 2 debates to me in 2020. Since then, he hadn't shown up for debate. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. Well,
3.
make my day, pal. I'll even
4.
do it twice. So let's pick the dates,
long.
Donald. I hear you're
5.
free on Wednesdays. Donald Trump lost 2 debates to me.
That is, I'm not a mathematician. That is an edit every 2.5 seconds because that demented old fool cannot even splice together an uninterrupted sentence of more than 3 seconds long. Now, what I've been struggling with when I do my own videos and I edit out, like when I lick my lips or something like that, I find that editing actually just makes things, like just cutting, even if it's unnecessary, just like a nanosecond to make it look like there's a cut, it makes things run and flow smoother. But we know that Joe Biden just cannot string together a sentence. He's agreed to debate, by the way. So Joe Biden put out that let me rub in the face of the abused spouse because I'm the abuser invitation, and Trump has accepted it on CNN. And I made the joke, which I guess I only resonate how good the joke is based on how many retweets it get. I said, are they going to leak you the questions like they did with Hillary Clinton? And I showed a picture of Donna Brazile and an article. So Donna Brazile leaks debate questions to Hillary Clinton in advance of CNN debate. Do we all remember that? Do we understand how corrupt everything is? Like Joe Biden, this is a topic that's discussed on The Unusual Suspect. His daughter confirmed that the diary was real. His daughter confirmed that she wrote as an adult a diary, sort of a memoir, in which she pontificated that she was sexualized at a young age, was having sex at a young age, questions whether or not she was molested, and claims that her father was taking showers with her, that being Joe Biden, probably inappropriate at that age. That's Joe Biden. That's Ashley Biden. That's the guy that right there is needling his violence in the face of Donald Trump. That man. Oh, and everybody remember when we were told that diary was fake. It was not real diary. It was such a fake diary that they were actually going after James O'Keefe for stealing a diary that was totally not Ashley Biden's. The fact that she's now come out, or at least it's confirmed that she admitted it was hers at the time, it's surprising to nobody except MSNBC viewers, because we all knew it could not have been fake if they were going after Project Veritas for theft, because you can't steal something that's fake. I mean, I guess you could if you're stealing a fake coin, whatever. You know what I mean? It would not have been theft of Ashley Biden's diary unless it was Ashley Biden's diary. That's Joe Biden, whose other son, Hunter, turned out to be what Hunter is. And I love the sitcom idea. Someone's going to steal it, write a screenplay, that Ashley Biden and Hunter Biden are angry at their father because of his abuse, and they are doing their absolute best to blow this guy out of the political sphere by sabotaging him, by letting out the dirty secrets. But the corrupt machine that is the deep state, which doesn't exist, also to be discussed tonight on The Unusual Suspects, they do not let them succeed on their scheme. Hunter Biden leaves his laptop at a freaking computer store, and intelligence comes out and says it's not a real. It bears the earmarks of Russian disinformation. Like Hunter's like, it is real. I want to take down my father, who I think abused me. I'm putting words in people's mouths. I want to take him down, and they're defending him, and they're foiling my plan to do it. Ashley Biden leaving that diary with those words in a place for it to be found. I want to take down my dad, who showered with me as a kid, and I hate him for it. And then intelligence comes in and won't let her do it. It's a comedy. It's a tragedy. So he's agreed. They offer the debate. Trump said, I will do it. And it's going to be wild. My prediction, it's not going to happen because Joe Biden is going to be not accessible for the debate, one way or the other. There is no way. I mean, he'll make the offer now and he'll get the social media virtue signaling points for doing it. May to June? And that's actually pretty damn close. I don't know if there's enough time for them to Article 25 Joe Biden between now and then. And people are like, well, you think they need to slip him the questions? He's going to draft the questions for CNN. Dude, it doesn't matter what they do. That debate is going to be a gong show. The only way it's going to devolve into something that's going to, I don't know, not be detrimental, but the only way it's going to devolve into something that doesn't destroy Joe Biden is what is going to happen. This is my prediction. If and when this ever occurs, you're going to have the CNN moderator, in order to be fair and hold Trump's feet to the fire. It's not going to be a debate between Biden and Trump. It's going to be a debate between the moderator and Trump. And Joe Biden's going to be sitting there like the demented old fool that he is as a spectator to this sport. So, yeah, they may be arrogant enough to think they're going to have Trump in jail. No. That wouldn't even be an excuse. Lock him up. Let him out. He's free on Wednesdays. So that's going to be fantastic. Okay, that was what's the Joe Biden. Let me see what I had in the backdrop here on my notes. Okay. Good. By the way, let me just take this time again to thank www.twc.health/Viva. Get if you're in America, get a contagion kit or an emergency kit. It's oh, okay. Let me see here. Let me go to Rumble and see if. Oh my goodness, there's a lot of Rumble rants in Rumble. How I almost forgot to see these things. I'm going to do a poll. In fact, I'm probably not going to end on YouTube today just because there's not enough time. I'm going to do a poll on YouTube. Let me bring this up because I think it's the funniest thing I've ever thought of. I've been battling the devil on my shoulder with the angel on my shoulder. Hold on. Some of you, I floated it by our locals community. They said, Viva, don't be stupid. Don't be stupid, David. This is classic, very, very funny stuff that you made. And here we go. Oh, it's my original joke. I officially consider myself to be a stand-up comedian now because unless someone can find proof of creation that this joke existed before mine, I am going to say it was an original thought regardless of whether or not it existed beforehand. But I thought about this after I did my vlog yesterday about Michael Cohen, that scoundrel, that scumbag. And I'm like, holy cows, what do we think about the two star witnesses in that case? You've got your scumbag lawyer and you've got a porn star liar whose story changes depending on who's paying her. And I came up with this gem. Now, the only question is this. Okay. The Donald Trump New York trial is predicated on the testimony of a scumbag and a cumbag. Now, I thought this was the funniest thing in the world. And then I get a call and it's David. I didn't get a call. Why? That's so crude. I was like, that's funny. That joke writes itself. That joke is baked into the letters. How the heck has no one come up with that before me? Like, I'm not the smartest guy, but how did no one come up with that before me? Now the question is this. I've asked Stormy Daniels to be on the channel. I don't always like, who I DM for an invitation, but hold on. There's a hair somewhere in here. I asked her to come on the channel, not privately. I guess I should just do it publicly now as well. Should I feel bad for the Stormy/Cohen joke? Yes, no, start poll. I want Rumble to do the polls. I think we're gonna make sure Rumble can. Sometimes the most obvious needs to be said. It's not bad, Dutchman. Not bad. It's the best joke ever because it works on so many levels. Yeah, so that's it. That was my joke. And then is it too crass? There's some words that are just disgusting and dirty to say. That's one of them. There's other words that are they're not disgusting or dirty. I just won't say them because they're just like the couple of words. But like some gross words like moist. Speak moistly, to quote Justin Trudeau. Oh, so no, I'm such an idiot ADHD. The entire tangent there was so that I go to the Rumble rants over on the Rumbles. Oh, I think Biltong's. Oh, shoot, Biltong. I forgot to go pick up the order today. What time is it now? It's too late. Damn it. Will SCOTUS intervene in these political persecutions? Says, I'm not your buddy guy. What sort of consequences, whether given or not, should apply to those involved? Finally, who would best prosecute those conspiring against Trump? Who would best prosecute those conspiring against Trump? I could think of a few good names. Roger Stone, Michael Flynn, Robert Barnes. Will the SCOTUS intervene? We're waiting, I'm not your buddy guy, on the ruling on immunity. That might resolve a number of these issues. They need to get involved because it's so bad. You got Joe Biden thinking it's okay to get up there and say, I hear you're free from our political persecution on Wednesdays. What sort of consequences? I would say that, hey, look, state rogue state prosecutors want to go after people for bull crap crimes, why don't prosecutors from Republican areas or conservative areas do the same thing? I would say get active on impeachment processes. I mean, I don't know how you're going to get Engoron off the bench, but is it Elise Stefanik? Yes, she's filed ethics complaints against Engoron, and I want to say Leticia James as well. And how can you fight it? Change public opinion and publicly mock them into oblivion. But we're waiting on SCOTUS to pick up its big boy pants and render some decisions of judicial import to preserve the integrity of the last remaining system that is intended to preserve and protect against absolute anarchy, when people don't think there's any justice and they don't think there's any repercussions. That's how the judicial system is the way to prevent violence from erupting into the streets. The judicial system is to ensure that people fight their battles in court. If they no longer think they can do that, and if they're relatively certain that the courts are just going to be used as a political tool to jail them, that's how things devolve. King of Biltong says, good afternoon from Anton's Meat. Need free shipping on your biltong using code VIVA on www.biltongusa.com or antonusa.com. Your next shipment is on its way. Happy hump day. Thank you, Biltong. I got the notification yesterday, and it'll be fine. It'll be good. Sammy says, the fact that they are openly offering the debate makes me very concerned. It's not going to happen, and it's not going to be called off because of Biden. I appreciate the sentiment, Sammy. Abraham P says they will mute Trump the entire time. TX14 says, hey, Viva, watch the interview at the tail end of Redacted News today. NGO financial trail and criminal behavior. I started watching Redacted because I wanted to see what was going on with the assassination attempt on the Slovenian PM. Let me just make sure it was Slovenian. Sorry, I'm not trying to be glib or anything. It's just, let's see here. Okay, hold on. Recently, Prime Minister made headlines. Jeez, I can't see anything anymore. It's Slovenian. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat. Jane Catherine Barry once says, Viva, in open court, could the jury foreman present the judge with a request to define the crime that the defendant is charged with? Are we talking we're talking now in Trump, Alvin Bragg, not in Dexter Taylor. The charges were falsification of business records. I mean, that's the charge. It's so funny. You guys saw the clip. I mean, you saw it because I put it out yesterday, but MSNBC, they're like, how have they not said what the underlying crime is? Because in order to bump it from a misdemeanor to a felony, there has to be the falsification for the purposes of concealing a felony crime. And they're like, how the hell have they not specified what that is yet? And it's like, because it's bullshit. I mean, there's no other way to put it. This is Lavrenta Baria. Find me the man, I'll show you the crime. They don't care. And like, people are saying, well, there's two lawyers on that jury. Surely they're going to be offended by this. But why? Because do you think they're going to have an ethics standard because they're lawyers? They might like this lawfare. I mean, for goodness sake, it's lawyers prosecuting the case. The lawyer on the bench, Judge Marchand, is gagging Trump while Joe Biden taunts him on Twitter. So the argument is that they will issue the legal directives when it's time for jury deliberations, or when they give the jury instructions. But it's a load of crap. New York shitty, says Abraham. Now, what I'll just ask as a favor to everybody. We're 3,500 watching on Rumble, and there's only 219 thumbs up. 262. Give the thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed, and even do it on YouTube. I mean, YouTube has been chicaneering left, right, and center, and I don't care, except for the fact that YouTube is a very good platform to draw people over to Rumble and to vivabarneslaw.locals.com. And I don't like you being suppressed for no good reason. MSMCPA on our vivabarneslaw.locals.com with a $10 tip says 14 seconds with 5 edits. Absolutely. Abraham P says soon we will have Viva singing. Okay, I got that. So before we run out of time here, it's my wife's birthday also. I got a gift. I got a nice gift, and it's not, what is it? The VBL speaker? I thought she would like the VBL speaker. I like the VBL speaker, but I got her something nice. It's an antique. I'll show you. It's an antique. It's not an antique. I got it at a thrift shop. It's an Asian, Japanese, or I think it's Japanese pottery thing for flowers because she likes that stuff. Anything from a thrift shop. And I got some meat from Easy Meats on Glades, a wonderful Portuguese Brazilian meat shop. It's freaking delicious, and I loaded up on meat because we had none left. What I was about to say, let's get to Canada for a second. So there have been encampments, like occupations, as they refer to it, when it was the trucker protest down in Ottawa. And people ask me, like, Viva, what do you think about this peaceful protest? There's nothing wrong with that. The harassment, and I've seen evidence of harassment that I did not find at the trucker protest, but there are already laws to deal with that harassment, so that harassment can be dealt with swiftly. Interference with other people's contracts, a bit of an issue, but whatever. There have been encampments at my alma mater, one of my two alma maters, McGill, for the protests. It's the latest divide and conquer, import foreign conflict nationally so that you can divide and conquer among your own citizens. I'm going to take this out for a second. I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent here. I appreciate everyone's sensitivities and everyone's positions in this Palestinian-Israeli conflict. It's not anything new for me. I remember the first, the second Intifada. It played out exactly the way it's playing out right now. It's not an. I won't say it's amazingly complex. It's more complex as far as a history goes than some people understand. It's amazingly emotive because people are literally talking about life and death and living under torturous conditions. The only question is, that is the responsibility and fault of whom? And people differ on that. And so I'm not, I had, when I was in CEGEP, between high school and university, I had a Palestinian friend, and her parents were born and raised. And there was no rational discussion that could be had. You're talking about a debate between two sides that are living through trauma. So I appreciate all the arguments there, and I appreciate it's a very impassioned debate. I'd highlight that we are watching now with this Palestinian-Israeli latest flare-up in violence in the Middle East. We're watching the import or the importation of foreign conflict domestically, much like we saw it with Russia-Ukraine conflict. Also complex, also complicated. I think that's a little more nuanced than the Israeli-Palestinian stuff, because I know where my questions lie, but at the end of the day, anybody who does not regard Hamas as a terrorist organization, whether or not it's of a certain creation, whether or not it's financed by, there's a lot of other questions where that goes down to. But anybody who does not categorically acknowledge that Hamas is a terrorist organization, well, there's not much room for discussion that you can have there. When it comes to Russia and Ukraine, I know people like to say Putin is a terrorist, genocidal maniac. I think what you might have there is more of a battle between two corrupt Eastern European countries that is more nuanced. Now, okay, whatever. We don't need to get into it. We are witnessing the importation of domestic conflict because it's very nice to sow discord among citizens. It's a great way for Trudeau to break some shit so that he has a mess to clean up. And it's like, well, there's a big mess here. That's what you need me for as government. I got to come clean it up. You broke it. Trudeau, you're sort of like the Michael Cohen of government. I fix stuff that I break. So bottom line, we've witnessed the same importation of the conflict in the Middle East that we witnessed in Russia, and it was encouraged with Russia. Demonizing Russian Canadians, demonizing Russian athletes. It's the same thing, mutatis. But the bottom line, it's nothing new. We've seen this before, and there are wild protests going on the campuses of McGill. That was like one of the most preeminent Canadian universities. There's protests going on the campus of Concordia. That is not one of the preeminent Canadian universities. I'm saying that's a joke. There's always been a rivalry between McGill and Concordia, but it's always been widely accepted that McGill, my alma mater for my philosophy degree, regardless, Concordia it had a good reputation for film, not so much for many other things, but it's got the national treasure, Gad said. Okay. So there's been encampments. I don't know if we're going to see pictures of here. And I don't really see. These are the encampments that we see on the field. This is like on the Frisbee field in the front where you used to play Frisbee, where you used to have events, where you used to have like a Frosh Week, et cetera, et cetera. They've had an encampment. They went to court to try to get an injunction to order the dismantling of the encampment. When you go for an injunction, Was it an interim? I think it was an interlocutory. You've got to show urgency, irreparable harm, color of right, balance of inconvenience, all these criteria to get an injunction. I think McGill screwed up on their arguments because they raised a number of arguments that were easily disproven for the argument of urgency, irreparable harm. They were saying, well, we can't have convocation ceremonies for the graduation, I guess, because we're getting close. And they said, well, you've already presented evidence that you found alternative places to hold your graduation convocation ceremonies. So that is not an argument for urgency, irreparable harm, balance of inconvenience, color of right, etc. They were arguing that they didn't argue that it's an occupation of private property, that it's impeding contractual relationships between students and university. They argued, if I'm not mistaken, safety issues. There's not a fire escape or whatever. There's potential risk for loss of life and harm in these encampments. And the judge is like, well, we haven't seen any evidence of that. A Quebec judge has rejected McGill University's request for an injunction to remove the pro-Palestinian encampment on the university's campus in downtown Montreal. Wednesday's ruling is the second injunction request that has been denied after two students requested similar authorization. Okay. They wanted to dismantle the thing, citing health and safety concerns at the encampment that was first set up on April 27. Not the best arguments to raise for an injunction. The prospect of a potential health issue, potential safety issues. Well, there's not a clear enough fire escape that's been... now, who's the justice? Marc Saint-Pierre did not find sufficient grounds to justify an injunction, but requested that plaintiffs make specific modifications to the introductory application and refile the request. Saint-Pierre said in his decision, McGill cannot point to any serious claim of violent incident since the erection of the first tents on the campus, noting that even a confrontation... Why is it in... It's my computer. A confrontation with the counter demonstrators on May 2nd took place peacefully. In addition, the court said the McGill's need for an injunction to start work for the spring convocation was not justified because ultimately the university's wise decision to relocate the event. The written decision, he said, the case also raises issues about conflicting rights of protesters, freedom of expression, and versus McGill's property rights. He said there is a need for a large debate on the question, including whether peaceful occupation should fall under the right to freedom of expression. The judge said a more in-depth analysis that is normally done in the context of a provisional injunction would be preferred. Oh, so they must have gone in for normally done in the context of a provisional injunction. You got provisional, interlocutory, and permanent. So I thought provisional was the most urgent, where you don't really have much time to analyze the merits of the dispute. And so that's it. They ain't getting rid of the encampments just yet, at least under whatever. It was either provisional or interlocutory injunction. And so it'll be a question on the merits. I mean, it's an amazing thing. What the protesters are demanding is that McGill divest of any financial support for, from what I understand, any institution that finances or takes or has connections to the state of Israel. So I don't exactly know what that demand materializes by way of. Like, do they need to kick out Israeli students? I doubt that. Are they not allowed sponsoring certain products, certain events? Are they not allowed having certain speakers? It's an amazing thing where people are going to say, our right to protest, we're going to protest things that impede on your freedom of association. Back in the day at Concordia, they prevented Netanyahu from, this was 20 years ago, I think. And I think it was Netanyahu. Let me make sure that I'm not wrong on that. Google, Concordia bars Netanyahu. Concordia protest. I'm pretty sure they barred. Yeah, 2002. Here we go. Look at this. It's so amazing to have a memory. 2002 was the second Intifada. Concordia University bars activities on Mideast. Montreal Concordia's University has banned all campus activities related to the Middle East after a violent demonstration this month that forced the cancellation of speech by Benjamin Netanyahu. People, this is 22 years ago. Plus ça change, plus ça reste le même, as we say in French. The more things change, the more they stay the same. That's wild, actually. 22 years ago. Exact same thing. It was there. I mean, the incident that led to that flare-up was nowhere near as devastating as October 7, but it's a terrorist attacks. Anybody remembers the Fogel family? There's a terrorist attack, there's a response, and then there's the claims, well, the response is too disproportionate to the attack, and then there's the same protests over and over and over again. All right, people, Gouveia has gone live, and I don't want to impede on his well-established time slot. I'm going to give everybody the link to the Unusual Suspects. If you're so inclined, please go, show some love, and let them know who dropped you in. And that is the link there. Hold on. Did I just give the link? Yes, I did. Hold on. Okay. Link to Unusual Suspects. I'm on the show, by the way. So just so you know, it's on now. And then I'll give the link in locals. Go do it, people. I'm going to go wrap a present. I'm going to go wrap a present. Link to Unusual Suspects. And let me make sure if I didn't miss anything by way of super rumble rants. I'm all for free speech and protest. However, when you're calling for the genocide of an entire people, river to the sea, I cannot tolerate that. I do appreciate how they're making themselves known, at least. Says, I'm not your buddy guy. And Abraham P. over in Rumble says, the judge might have gagged Stormy if she had a gag reflex. Bada bing, bada boom. And then we got Sammy says, a funny name topic. My friend's dad is an OBGYN in Branson, Missouri, retired. His name is Dr. Richard Stiff Dick. Seriously, I didn't believe it until I saw the driver's license. Epic stuff. And that does it for the Rumble rants. Let me see what's going on in the locals. VivaBarnesLaw.locals.com. Viva's lucky wife likes thrift shop items. Poor Zelensky had to take his wife to spend $100,000 of U.S. taxpayer money at New York City Tiffany's. No, she got, like, I'll tell you this. It's not, I don't say that my wife is low maintenance. The VBL speaker, that big booming speaker, I got it because look, for going to perpetuate some stereotypes here. I go to Best Buy and it was 20% off or 22% off because it was an open box. It's like, crap. I've always wanted one of these speakers. The sound is crazy. It's like, she'll love it. It came to $400, which is not cheap. And she's like, that's too expensive. I don't even want this. I was like, but it's a good deal. And then, so I was like, okay, well, that's it. We're going to go get, I'm going to send a picture to locals as to what we got there. Hold on, let me see. I can't tell if this is a joke. Shame on you if you call an 80-year-old or 81-year-old an abuser. You should be happy if you ever eat your 81 yourself. You Americans are out of your minds. Okay, that has to be a joke. Okay, it has to be. So Viva's going to wrap a present with his wife's birthday. Is there a double entendre in there? But honey, I saved 20%. Well, I swear to you, I sincerely got it for her own birthday pleasure because she does exercises and I thought she could play the exercises off the speaker. I was wrong. Boy, howdy was I wrong. Bucklebrush says 50 Intel officials falsified the document. I got to that one earlier. Jared Taub. Hey, Viva, first time giving CommuTube money, eh? Hypothetically, not for legal advice for sure, if someone was looking for legal representation in Harris County, would a certain 1776 center for help contact them for sure? I'm going to have to Google where Harris County is because I believe there might be more than one of those. Harris County, Texas. 1776 is expanding. That's 1776 Law Center. I have no affiliation with them yet. Maybe they're going to need one day a social media guru. I'm joking. But 1776 Law Center is Barnes's enterprise to raise money so they can represent the politically disfavored and the people who can't necessarily represent themselves. And he's doing the Lord's work in Amish land in Pennsylvania and elsewhere. So who was that from? That was from Jared Taub. Thank you very much. And that is where we're going to end it, people. Be gone and enjoy the afternoon. King of Bill Talk. It's funny. I just saw that. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to go wrap a wife's present. I'm going to go fill out a card. And, oh, yeah, I'm also going to go do a quick car vlog. I'm going to get in so much trouble because I want to put together a short summary of Dexter Taylor's update so that people can go and put that on blast and share it around. So, everybody, I will be live tomorrow, guaranteed. And stay tuned. Thank you all for being here. Sincerely, let me make sure I'm not missing anything in Viva Barnes Law. It@thelocal.com. I am. Patty Weber says, I put this idea up on Truth Social. They can bring a note cards. What do you think? Maybe for leftist run debate in June, real Donald Trump should bring a display of billboards, text, and images like these. They illegally kept out open classified documents. Oh my goodness. There's so many. We'll talk about more stuff tomorrow. Oh, 14 say, yeah. There's too much to talk about. Okay, go. We're gonna talk more tomorrow, people. We'll have some news at the very least to talk about tomorrow. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to end the stream locals. I'm not coming over afterwards now because I'm going to go and say hi to the missus. If you are all inclined, I'll give you the link one more time to the Unusual Suspects. My segment is the last segment, and they saved the best for last just because of the substance of the subject and not because of me. And let's go see the poll, actually, before I forget. The poll in YouTube, should I feel bad about the joke? The answer is a resounding 94% no and 6% yes. I've invited Stormy Daniels for a podcast. We can even do it live in the studio, but I'll have to have witnesses. And I'm going to go put that invitation out there publicly. So everybody go enjoy the evening. Thank you all for being here. And I'll see you tomorrow. Peace out, people.